Good day, everyone. Welcome back. It's another interview about Hyrox. So much going on lately. So much athletes being added. That's right. I said so much athletes. So many athletes being added. Christy Rama was just added. I've got a call set up with her tomorrow. Dave Magida trying to fight his way into that invitational round, and he's got some spicy takes on whether or not he goes. That'll be coming out in the next couple days. But today is Jacob Heppner, who is one of the best CrossFitters in the world and a really fun guy. I've had him on the show a couple of times. And today we spoke with him about Spartan Games, about Hyrox, about all this functional fitness stuff going on. Be a full podcast coming later. In this clip, we will ask him if we think the CrossFitting audience will find its way over to Hyrox and DECA. Away we go.
I think there's an opportunity there. I think like in most sports, like you're not going to see a giant cut over from CrossFit to Spartan, or CrossFit to Hyrox, or CrossFit to DECA, Spartan Fit, whatever, like DECA Fit, which is also Spartan, because of the notoriety that they don't have yet, and because of the money. It's not going to happen. Like, unless it's a prize purse, unless it's like in terms of Hyrox, unless it's like a true set defined thing, it's going to be hard.
I don't mean the big names. I mean the audience. I mean, there are, gazillions of people that do the Open every year. What if some of those tens of thousands, like, would they be interested? That's what I'm kind of curious, because I don't know the community as well.
Yeah, I think that's, don't get me wrong. I liked, if any of these sports that I've done, I loved TMX the most. That one I wish that would come back. I loved it. Because it was
we all did, man.
Oh, it was so much fun. It was fun to do. I mean, you could just tell that when people did it in Sacramento and Miami when I was there, they loved it. And I wish it would come back. And I think what they're trying to do with DECAFIT and Hyrox, it's the people in those sports are used to doing OCR races. They're used to Spartan Beast. They're used to these races they've done, the Tough Mudder or whatever they're called. They're too close to that sport. If they really want to get a lot of CrossFit people, which is over on this side of the spectrum, they need to be closer to that side of the spectrum. They can't be like DECA in my mind and Hyrox. I mean, I'm running 800 meters in every round. Like, screw me. Like, that was like 5 miles of running. Like, my knees hurt, everything hurt. It was too close to a Spartan race and not close enough to a functional fitness space. I think Tough Mudder, even though they did some things wrong in their company, obviously, the one thing they did do right was they got Tough Mudder X right on the dot. They nailed it. Obstacles, functional fitness, limited running, because it was like in between. You weren't running in between obstacles unless you're Hunter or Isaiah Vidal. You were like, oh God, I'm jogging in between. But like, I think they did it right. And if you really want everyone to come from the functional fitness space, from our space, which will happen at some point, you need something that they feel comfortable with. And I think TMX is the most comfortable thing so far I've seen.
Well, TMX was a massive production, and I don't think it's coming back. I'll just be honest with you. It was very expensive, and I don't think it's coming back.
I don't think you need the production. Like, it was literally just like a Tough Mudder. I guess they had the obstacles a lot closer. It was literally a Tough Mudder setup, and they just put like sandbags in between. Like, you don't need CBS out there.
Right. But DECAFIT it's interesting because this is one of those like COVID pivots. They did do some without running that they're just doing like in gyms, and they're calling it DECA Heavy or DECA Mile, where it's not the running.
Yep.
So you're saying you think that could thrive?
Yeah, I think it could. I mean, that's the one they did at the Spartan Games. I think that could thrive. I think with I watched a little bit of it, and I think it was a good job. I mean, I don't have a problem with running being in there, but if they are going to put monostructural pieces in there, rowing, skiing, and aerosol bike, then yeah, you don't need running. That's the one problem I had with like DECAFIT with Hyrox was like you'd run and then get back and row. I'm like, this is mono to mono. Like, why don't we do like a run to something? They had other stations that were perfect for that. Sled push sucked, but they had other pieces. But I think they need to switch out. Like, don't go mono to mono. Like, let's go mono to a bar, or mono to a barbell, or mono to a wall ball.
Last question.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Spartan Games is happening. They don't want to tell people. So stupid how they were about it. But they were very secret until they realized, like, oh, if Matt and other people are talking about it, it's a good thing. So then they started talking about it. But Jacob Heppner and his family are in Vermont. Everyone's like, Jacob's fucking doing it. I'm like, listen, I don't have to be a dick, but I know everything, and he's not there, and he's not going. And they're like, oh, he is.
Oh, Matt, you think you know all.
Right. So talk to me about your vacation. I just made air quotes, audio listeners. Your vacation coincidentally timed with the old Spartan games.
So I was actually on the docket to go. I have been invited. I was one of the first people they reached out to. They had I mean, in their defense, like they got a lot of females from different areas. They did not get any males from like a whole lot from the functional fitness space because they reached out to me probably very early on. It's probably one of the first people they reached out to because obviously I've done Spartan things and they know me well. I was slated to go after some negotiations, but I tried to negotiate with them and they weren't hearing me out, and I didn't like how they were doing it. I actually had to speak to a couple different people in their sport that were higher up in whatever they were planning this thing. And I was like, look, I'm not coming because the original way they had programmed it, people like in my sport, we have people who program. You might hate Dave Castro, but at least he programs in a way that hits all modal domains. But the people programming for the Spartan games were not doing that. It was like, they were like, oh, Jacob, well, you're going to come run. So like one thing I showed up, as I said, I will come. I will listen to you about coming, but you have to tell me the events. And they were like, no. And I said, then I'm not coming. Like, I'm not going to show up to your event if you're not going to tell me anything about it. This isn't my sport. Okay. I'm not going to tell anybody. I'll sign an NDA about it, but you're going to tell me every single event. So they told me every single event. And I was like, no. They were like, well, the first day you're going to show up and day one, the first thing you're going to do is run a marathon. I said, absolutely not. I was like, because that's not fair. They're like, well, why isn't it fair? I was like, that's like me showing up and saying, okay, guys, if you want to hit all moto domains, you can't make something that's so polarized in the beginning that it kills everyone else. If you made me run a marathon, I wouldn't be able to do anything the next day. I was like, that's like me showing up and saying, okay, guys, first event is deadlift 500 pounds. Oh, you can't do it? Well, keep trying because screw you. And then tomorrow when you show up with a broken back and you can't run, you're like, oh, I can't do anything. That's the same for me for running a marathon. It just wasn't well programmed in my mind. So I had some issues with it. I told them my issues with it. They met me. They actually lessened it quite a bit in certain areas. But overall, I had been struggling with some knee issues because had knee issues after it was right after the games we had, right?
That was the other thing. His timing wasn't great.
No, and that's fine. Like they didn't know that the games kept getting pushed back. If the games was an original spot, it would have been a perfect time. But the timing wasn't great. I was having knee issues. I was like, look, guys, you can't program this way. You can't run a marathon and then run some more. And like the creativity in that team. And I told them this. I said, look, and this isn't a bad thing. I just said, look, you guys need help programming. I've seen you guys program for that Spartan thing we did in the Beast thing. Terrible job. You guys were like, let's run 13 miles, then get back, and the other events will run some more. Like when you create something that you want to be successful, you need to pull in other people from different aspects that have different. You can't live in an echo chamber. They live in an echo chamber.
And this is what I said. Because I know those people really well. So I know Yancey really well. I know Mike Morris really well. And I believe in them as really good at their jobs. But you've never done this before. So you need to talk to some people who have, get their input, and like they also, the reason the show was kind of sideways is because they didn't get a producer that knew what they were doing. You know what I mean? So it was like, listen, we've talked about it ad infinitum about that on my other show. So I'm not going to get into it, but yeah, like be smart about it. Be like, hey, I haven't done this. Maybe I should like call some people. Like that should have been one of the first things, is to call you and a couple of other guys or girls and be like, hey, we want to put this together. What would have you come out? What could we do? And I know that you're not going to make it 1,000% CrossFit in your wheelhouse. No. You'd go outside your comfort zone. Of course, you ran 13 miles on a mountain. That would have been the better thing to do. And if you're listening again, Yancey and Mike, I love you. I respect what you do, but that's the move to do.
Yeah. And I think that's, if they really want, I thought the Spartan Games idea was pure genius. I thought it was very smart. And that's why I listened to it. I also thought the idea that Yancey and Mike put on was pure genius, because I love the idea of connecting our inside sport to your guys' outside sport, because there's so much connection, like us here. But you're right. Like the way they had it programmed for Spartan Games, it was long time domain, it was like run a marathon, swim 1,200 meters, bike for 5 hours. It was like, and they were like, and the kid I was talking to was like, I was like, okay, what anaerobic pieces do you have in this? He's like, well, we're doing a Spartan Deca heavy, a Deca, whatever it's called. I was like, how long is it? 14 minutes. I was like, that's not anaerobic, bro. Like, that's not anaerobic. He's like, well, when you ski for 200 meters, that's anaerobic. I was like, it's anaerobic piece in an overall aerobic workout. I was like, I don't think you understand this. I just think they need people to sit on their council. Yeah, if they pulled me in to counsel this on the workout and they wanted me to go and I signed an NDA, that's fine. I would never create a workout where I'm going to win because then it just looks bad on my part. I would create a workout or a situation where it's fun for all. And it doesn't need to be like purely CrossFit, or they did a decent job of going all over the place, but I think it was so skewed to obstacle course racing. It just wasn't enjoyable. Like, it's like, how can you find the fittest person on the planet if you literally do multiple workouts the same, like similar? They were like, hey, do this like 5K obstacle course race and then do it again. Do DECA and then do it a little bit heavier. It's like, guys, you have all this time and that's what you came up with for creativity. They just need like some help to like change some things up. I thought the wrestling though, the putting the block, the rocks on top of that, a lot of the things they did were really freaking cool. But you know, I think next year, if they do it again, which I hope they do, I think they'll do better. I just think, and I think that the way they portrayed a lot of drama, not enough of the actual athletes, was disappointing, but that's not really up to the programmers. That's the producer.
Well, but I think that was the thing, is that they were the same. They were one and the same. They thought, let's make a reality show, and people, like, there was nobody there to tell them don't do that, or the people that did say that didn't. So when they thought the bucket, they were like, oh, it's exactly what we wanted. And so it became about the fucking bucket. And, you know, I guess it worked in that sense that people are talking about it. But I think my audience will be happy to hear this, because you're in that space, and it's hard for us. It's hard for us to not judge other people. Like, I was giving the marathon girl a hard time because the marathon girl was like, this is too hard. This is a mountain run and it's stupid and it's too hard. And I'm like, why are you bitching? Like, you're there to do something new. And then like other people, like the runners, you know, even like Nicole and Lindsay and Ryan were like, no, it was really fucking hard. Like, if you've only run on concrete your whole life, that is kind of ridiculous. Like, they needed something in between. So it's just good for us to hear from somebody from your perspective, what they could have done right and what they could have done wrong. Yeah.
So I guess to finish the story out, as I eventually decided, they had met me, they had done it. Spartan had a good job of bringing it back. Cause their original ideas were ridiculous. They did a good idea of negotiating and bringing it back. Then I actually backed out because I thought, you know, even this still is going to be bad for my knee, even what you told. I think they literally said, like, you still have to run half a marathon again on a mountain, which is difficult. Because I did it in the beast. And so I eventually backed out and said, you know what, I'm not going to go. But at that time, my wife had already still had her mindset of going to Vermont. So we still went. We actually drove past Killington, or through Killington. But
did you wave as you went by? Because it's pretty small.
I think it was like it was like off the road. We're honest, we didn't actually drive through it, I guess. But I think, like, I just want to clarify, like, the people programming it, awesome dudes. If you need help next year, I'm glad to assist, and I'm not going to be the one that's going to win it. Like, I'm here to assist it. But I just think echo chambers are dangerous.
Correct.
In life, in everything you do, in sports too. And I think that they need to pull in subject matter experts in other areas. I mean, the same goes for us. Like, I would love if CrossFit decided to put on an obstacle course race and pulled in Yancey or someone from this area to do that. That would be freaking awesome. But I think Spartan, for some reason, has this idea of, this is what we do, put blinders on. I don't care what anyone else says. We're going to do this. And then they struggle because of it. Like, let us speak into it and help you out. I'm here.
And there we have it, folks. Thanks as always for watching. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. You will get nerded. You will get notified when there's new videos, which now are practically every day. And you will also help me out because, hey, I need it. Love you. Miss you. Mean it. I got to run. That's my tagline, by the way.